They are raging in Los Angeles for what to do with the Clippers.
It's funny because this is Rage Against the Machine.
See what I did there?
I did.
Murray to my left, Steve Solomon straight ahead. I'm Scott Linn. Follow these boys on Twitter at Steve Solomon, SOLOMON. At 1 Tim Murray, that's number 1, and then Tim and Murray, nice and easy. At Scott Linn 980. Follow our next guest at Spin Davies on Twitter, SPINDAVIES. Spencer Davies, BasketballInsiders.com. Joins us here on SB Nation AM. Spencer, how are you, sir?
Not too bad, fellas. How about yourself?
We're doing lovely on a happy May 1st Monday here in the morning. Where to start? How about with yesterday's late game? What's the deal with Rudy Gobert? It wasn't just the fact that he fouled out, Spencer. It was the type of fouls that he was putting forth. This just seemed to be an overall mess of a Sunday. And if you told me that he was going to give you that in a Game 7, I would have probably shifted my bet over to the L.A. Clippers.
He just seemed to be a little bit flustered. I feel like that injury might have gotten to his head a little bit. He certainly wasn't playing like himself. I mean, going up on getting those boards, he was shoving DeAndre Jordan almost every time that the ball was coming off of the rim. So I feel like it was a little bit of the jitters. But, I mean, to the Jazz's credit, I mean, Derek Favors comes up huge in the clutch and really played very nicely. And they're going to take on the Warriors next round.
He too, was quite solid, but also played through foul trouble, wound up with his 6, and he was done. Why, in your estimation, did Utah win this series? Was it all defense, or was it timely from other people?
I think it was a little bit of both, and I think eventually the half-court game just favored Utah a lot more. I feel like they made the Clippers play their pace a lot, and that battle in the paint really got to Los Angeles. It seemed like they just couldn't do anything with them. To the Clippers' credit, they played pretty well when they got them into the pick-and-roll situations, but other than that, when Chris Paul was on the bench, they just couldn't do anything, and that's where the games got away from them. And last night, I mean, it was just a tough game. I mean, DeAndre Jordan played pretty excellent, and still couldn't come away with it. And just the role players for the Jazz were excellent as well. I mean, you just look at how good Joe Ingles played. Obviously, we know how big Joe Johnson was in Game 1, Game 4, and really overall in this series. George Hill, very underrated player in this series as well. Very composed, and he brings that championship pedigree, as we know, when he played with the Spurs at the beginning of his career. Also, Rodney Hood making some very timely shots. So it was really a team effort for the Jazz. And now that Gordon Hayward has really come into his own as well, I think that they could at least give the Warriors a fight to tire them out, at least before they get to that Western Conference Finals.
Talking to Spencer Davies, BasketballInsiders.com here on SB Nation Radio, SB Nation AM, at Spin Davies on Twitter. Transition question before I shuffle you over to my friend Tim Murray is, if you're the Clippers, what happens next? Misters Paul, Griffin, Redick, each UFA this summer.
Yeah, Chris Paul and Blake Griffin are on that early termination option. So there's certainly a chance that they could walk. But here's the thing, and we talked with Steve Kyler about this in our podcast last week. If you're the Clippers, you're not trying to blow this thing up. You do still want to keep these guys here. Blake Griffin likes life in Los Angeles, and he'll probably stay in L.A. As far as Chris Paul goes, that's a little bit of a different situation potentially. But with J.J. Redick, he will probably not be back with the Clippers next year just because of the money situation, especially if they're going to have to pay Chris Paul and Blake Griffin to keep him there and keep that big three of him and Jordan and Paul together, you know? So it is going to be an interesting offseason. It's a critical offseason for them, especially to see what the team's direction is moving forward.
Spencer, when you look at what happened yesterday in Boston, the great start by the Wizards, but the Celtics just unable to, or just didn't miss from outside. Was that more of the Wizards' poor defense or the Celtics just being red hot?
I think it was more of the Celtics being red hot, to tell you the truth, because the Wizards really weren't playing that bad. Actually, you know what I said yesterday was that game was kind of like a microcosm of their series with the Bulls, wasn't it? You know, they just get punched in the face. and they keep battling. Didn't take a lead until the third quarter, and then from there it just put the foot on the gas. I mean, Washington fought back in the fourth, and Brandon Jennings and Bradley Beal were the huge part of that, but they just could not miss from three. Jay Crowder was excellent, made 6 of 8 from three. Isaiah Thomas, potentially his best game of the playoffs at 33 points, 9 assists on 48% shooting and 45% from beyond the arc. It just seems like they were relentless, and also Al Horford picked it up big time on the glass in that second half. So I don't think it was more of the fault of the Wizards. Losing Markieff Morris for them definitely hurt, especially them on the interior, and with Horford, obviously. But he said that he's good to go for Game 2, so we should have a solid Game 2. And I think this series is still going to go 7 regardless. But the Warriors gave them their best shot in the first. But give Brad Stevens and the Celtics credit, man. They came back just like they did in that first round, and they took Game 1.
Celtics have now won 5 in a row. Talking to Spencer Davies at Spin Davies on Twitter. We get Cavaliers and Raptors tonight, Game 1, a rematch of last year's Eastern Conference Finals. That went 6 last year. The 4 Cavalier wins were just blowouts. How do you see this series playing out, Spencer?
You know, I feel like it's going to be a lot closer than people think. You know, some people are telling everybody it's going to be a sweep, so it's going to be a game in 5. But these teams both have different faces, and I just put that in my preview this morning. They've got Serge Ibaka now. The Raptors got Serge Ibaka now. They've got PJ Tucker. Those are 2 different guys that were not a part of the series last year. The Cavs, they have Deron Williams, Kyle Korver. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic there to see how those guys impacted. Like I said, the stars of the show, they're going to get theirs. We know LeBron's going to get his dunks. We know Kyrie Irving's going to have his crazy individual plays. Kyle Lowry's going to make some contested pull-up threes. DeMar DeRozan's going to be in the mid-range doing his thing. But the thing that I would like to key in on here is the matchup between the bench players. In the playoffs in the first round, Cavs were the top offensive team, and the Raptors were the top defensive team with their reserves on the court. So I'm looking at those guys to keep the game in check between both of them, see how those two mesh. Key player for Toronto, obviously, when Jonas Valanciunas got moved to the bench, Norman Powell. Let's see how he does. J.R. Smith was relatively quiet in that first round. Let's see how he does for Cleveland. And also Kyle Korver off the bench. I feel like he's going to be a lot more impactful than he was in that first series. He was held in check pretty well by the Pacers. And obviously Toronto's going to have to key in on that, but I feel like Kyle Korver's going to get a lot more threes off. He only took 13 in that first round, and that's just not like him. So we'll see where it goes, but it should be an entertaining series, and those two know each other very well. So I feel like it's going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think.
Spencer, thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll continue to follow you on Twitter at Spin Davies. Continued success and good work. Keep up the good work at basketballinsiders.com. Thanks for your time this morning.
Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you.
We'll talk soon.